What I really tried to focus on is making the deliberate choice to put aside personal feelings and work with anybody that wants to help move Washington Parish forward. I've been, in the last month, I've been to Grant Parish, and if you don't know where Grant Parish is, it's not in the middle, it's in the middle of the state. The biggest town is Colfax, and if you drive through Colfax, it looks like Colfax is closed. But they have half the number of people that Washington Parish has, but they have almost twice the stuff in terms of a sheriff's department. They have all the modern equipment, the budget's smaller than ours. And what I realized in talking to the sheriff there, Sheriff McCain, is that they don't spend a lot of time arguing amongst each other. They don't have the 2 school systems and the 5 law enforcement agencies and the 10 fire districts, and everybody is on the same page with moving Grant Parish forward, and that's what I really tried to do. And I'm going to use somebody as an example in here, if I can see her. Jenny Thomas, where are you at? So if you raise your hand, Jenny. So Jenny, I offered her the opportunity to come up here and speak. She didn't want to do that, but I'm going to use her as an example because we went to a couple of these meetings, and I go to meetings that are kind of outside the purview of being the sheriff, because I want to figure out where can we find opportunity to move things forward. And Jenny and I had a discussion. I don't even remember what meeting we were at, but we sat next to each other and we started discussing the issue that we have in this part of Louisiana with pregnant women in our jails. If they come in and they're drug addicted and they're pregnant, in some ways that's an opportunity for us, because if we can keep them long enough for the baby to be delivered without being dependent on drugs, then we can actually maybe give them a fighting chance at some of the opportunities that life has to offer. But if we put her back out on the street, this woman has already made poor decisions to begin with. The baby comes out addicted, and then it messes up the hardware in your brain, and you can't treat some of the symptoms with medication and some other things. But that thought would have never had occurred to me had I not been able to sit. So I appreciate everybody coming to a meeting like this, because it gives you the opportunity to talk to other people and maybe make a connection, maybe expose yourself to something that you're not expecting. But what I want to do real quick is I want to go through a couple of pictures, and the pictures are only up there to keep me on track. So what you're looking at right here is a picture of training. So the sheriff has 4 responsibilities. I am the keeper of the jail. I am the chief law enforcement officer in the parish. I am the collector of the taxes, and I'm the executor of court orders. And so what that means is if I go through each one of those, the chief law enforcement officer, which everybody kind of focuses on, these are the deputies that you see riding around, these are the deputies giving tickets, these are the deputies doing investigations. One of the things that we struggle with in law enforcement is how do you find time to actually progress your skills? Because you're doing real world operations every day. And for those of you that spend most of your day fighting fires, you're very busy, but at the end of the day, you think, what did I actually accomplish today? Am I actually better at my job today than I was yesterday? Or did I just wait for the phone to ring and do what the phone told me? We kind of fall into that trap with law enforcement officers. And so what we've tried to do is implement a very deliberate training program. I don't know if I can, what you're looking at right here is crime scene investigations. So I wanted each of the deputies to look at the world through the lens of an investigator. Because very often, we look at it through the lens of a patrolman. The investigation is something that somebody else does. So if I roll up on a crime scene and I don't do things a certain way, I've fouled evidence, or I've contaminated a crime scene, or I've prevented somebody from making a full-fledged investigation. The only people that suffer from that are the victims. And so we ran through a couple of things, see if I can find the right. So that's part of it. What we do is on the 2nd and 3rd Tuesday of every month, we set aside a full day so the deputies that are off will go through physical training in the morning, followed by defensive tactics, and then in the afternoon, they will go through marksmanship training. And that'll happen each month. I've really tried to focus on getting people to buy into making yourself a deliberate training schedule and getting better. The second thing we try to do is we try to take care of the things that we have. If you've driven past our motor pool in Franklinton, you should have noticed a difference from the state of it 18 months ago. We've gotten rid of a lot of stuff. We've cleaned out a lot of things. We've really tried to take ownership of the facilities that we've got and try to make the most of what we have while we have it. We've also moved into our communications center in the center of the parish. That was a long time coming. Our call volume has probably grown faster than either of the municipal police departments in the parish in terms of the 911 calls that we respond to as the sheriff's office. And in order to grow to meet that capability, we really need to start using the facility that was built shortly, well, not shortly after Katrina, but it started after Katrina, getting the process going. So we're out there now. The next phase of this is going to be to develop what other parishes are calling a real-time crime center, where the world is moving to technology. Everybody's got access to information, whether it's cameras, whether it's social media, whether it's internet. And so other parishes, they synthesize all this information, and they have people that are actually connecting dots in real time. So if we get a call from someone, we already know that we've been to that address a couple of times. We know the people that are involved. We can connect those dots and try to solve that case while it's actually happening. The other thing that we're doing is next fall, in August, we will start for the first time here in Washington Parish a 911 emergency communicator certification program in Washington Parish schools. So that just like our VOTEC programs will give kids the opportunity to become welders or carpenters or small engine mechanic repair people, they'll now have a ability to earn a certificate to be a emergency communications responder. The program is being done in Ascension Parish, and I think maybe in Caddo Parish. I went down and talked to Sheriff Weber in Ascension Parish, and he has been very helpful in getting us the ability. I've got a deputy going through the training certification now so that we can start teaching in August and working with Washington Parish schools to offer that elective for kids when they come back in the spring. I also try to get involved. I mean, the reason I put Jenny on the spot is I try to do things that are kind of outside those four main responsibilities, things that need to get done. We applied for a grant, and we received a grant as part of Lieutenant Governor Nungesser's Keep Louisiana Beautiful program. So we're on the dock for 35 litter pickups. So I've got some Department of Corrections inmates that are with me. I've got a deputy that goes out. We pick up trash on the side of the road. I'm looking to expand that by passing the basic jail guidelines and inspections where I can actually house DOC prisoners. I house them, but I won't get off into that subject just yet. Where I'm certified to house DOC prisoners, and we can actually have a contract with DOTD to help clean up the roads. And again, I won't talk about that because it's one of the things that aggravates me to no end. We have a serious problem with litter in the parish. We also, what you're looking at are some Thanksgiving meals. So in years past, there had been a holiday meal for seniors on the west side of the parish and a holiday meal for the seniors on the east side of the parish. And what I really wanted to try to do was not have a standalone event, but instead complement the councils on aging and what they already do in the parish. And so we made meals for everybody that regularly attends the Council on Aging in Angie, Pine, Bogalusa, and Franklinton. And of course, the best thing about Thanksgiving is leftovers, and so this meal was designed to have 4 people, and everybody seemed very appreciative. This is just an example of some of the things that we're trying to do in the community to make things better. So I'm going to end up on this, sort of. I mentioned at the beginning that Leonard Powell and Walter Jackson met each other for the first time in 40-something years at Rayburn Correctional. And we had the bright idea, I think I saw Pastor Oree in here. So Michael Oree and I, we had a conversation about trying to get ahead of what we already know here in Bogalusa and in Washington Parish at large. We already know our young kids doing young kid things. And there's lots of reasons for it. One of the solutions is to give kids perspective. If you give somebody better information, if you give kids a different perspective, they're going to make different decisions. And yet we continue to try to deal with their problems on the backside. From a law enforcement, I mean, we're not going to jail our way out of the problems that we've got. We already lock up a lot of people, and I'll talk about this at the end. But the goal really was to take kids and give them a perspective and show them, if you make poor choices, this is the logical conclusion. And so we took them to the end of the road. The end of the road of the criminal justice system is right up the highway in Barnett, Rayburn Correctional. That's the logical extension of poor choices. And so we had to figure out what age group we were going to focus on. We decided on 8th grade. I talked to Dr. Hurst with Bogalusa City Schools. I talked to Jennifer Thomas with Washington Parish Schools. They both thought that the 8th grade was a good age to focus on for this initial iteration. These kids, and it was only boys, 225 boys in the parish, but these boys are walking around their junior high campuses and they're the big men on campus. They're 14 years old. There's a lot of difference between a 12-year-old and a 14-year-old, and they kind of feel like they're somebody. Yet next year they're going to be the low man on the totem pole, and they're actively being recruited to be involved in some things that they may not know really how to handle. They don't know how to say no. They don't know. They want to be part of a group. They want to feel like they're somebody. They want to feel like they're tough. And there's an opportunity. The streets are always going to welcome them with open arms. They're going to say, "Come be a part of this." But we wanted to show them where they could end up. Now, again, I agree, it may be somewhat of a gimmick to shock their system, but this is not a scared straight program that you see on television. This was an educational opportunity. So what you see here is the Sally Port, where an inmate would come in, and we met them there and we set their expectations about what they were going to see. They spoke to Warden Travis Day, who's here, and I think is going to maybe say something. They had an opportunity to speak to District Attorney Colin Sims, who's here. And we had his support on that. They had an opportunity to speak to a deputy and a police officer about what to do when encountered with law enforcement. They had an opportunity to speak to inmates about life inside the prison. They had an opportunity to hear from a mother who's not only the mother of someone in the prison, but the mother of a child that's been killed because of the violent crime here in Bogalusa. And so I could not help but think at the end of that experience that those 8th graders took away something that they could use to make a better decision in the future. And what we haven't told you yet is that in the spring we're going to do the other half of decision making, because you can only tell somebody what not to do so much. We need to show them what's possible. So in the spring we're going to bring them out to the state park and show them some of the things that life has to offer if you make better choices. We're going to expose some of these kids to things they've never been exposed to: horseback riding, and kayaking, and mountain bike riding, and disc golf. We're going to have people out there with all the cool things that law enforcement, all the toys and the bells and the whistles, and it's going to be something that they can remember in a positive manner. Yes, this was meant to kind of shock their system a little bit, and now we're going to go back and do some positive reinforcement. And most importantly, we're going to follow up with them through their high school career and make sure that they have a connection. When they are faced with a situation that they don't exactly know what to do with, we're going to have somebody that can reach out to them and give them some of the things that they need in order to feel like they're connected. So what you're looking at here is the boys. We took them to one of the cell blocks or one of the tiers, and there's an inmate behind each of these cells that's talking to them about life inside the prison and about some of the choices and decisions that they made. And that brings me to this. What you're looking at here is Highway 10. This is the Veterans Memorial Park. This is our Emergency Operations Center. And this is the 27.3 acres that on Wednesday we'll sign papers and take possession from Weyerhaeuser based off the $150,000 that Senator Beth Mizell got for us. We have submitted the first capital outlay request for the first round of funding to get us the architectural and engineering and site prep done on that site. Yes, we need a new jail in a new location, but most importantly, we need a centralized location in the parish in order to one day relocate all the things operational for the sheriff's office and for parish government. Motor pool, training facility, evidence storage. You know, for too long, there's been too much of a divide between the west side of the parish and the east side of the parish. And yes, there is an operational benefit to us having a centralized location in the parish, but really there's a philosophical and perspective benefit for having things in the center of the parish, and that's what we're trying to get to. So